Hey, what's going on, everybody? Who 186 back again with another video. Just give me 1 second here. I gotta do try to share this out real quick. Let's see. How y'all doing this evening, man? This is actually my first video of the new year. Hopefully, everyone's having a good New Year. All right. So I'm live now. Let me just do a sound check real
My
quick.
first video of the new
Okay.
year.
Okay, we are good. Let me share this out, and then we'll get started. Okay. So yeah, well, like I said, hopefully you guys are doing okay. I'm doing good. I'm having a few days off, so I figure I make this video and discuss some things because I saw this going on Twitter, and it was a topic on the Weapon Wheel podcast. Shout out to those guys. So I decided to make this video. So I mean, I'm just looking for my excuse me, I'm just looking for my tweet here. I'm looking for it. Okay, all right, we're good. All right, anyways, how y'all doing? Hoopy 186 back again with another video, and yeah, man, we might as well just get right into it, man. Like I said, this was a topic on Weapon Wheel yesterday. It's something that I saw on Twitter a couple days ago, and been going on for a few days. Is should Sony be more focused on multiplayer games? Now, for those of you who probably weren't around last generation, or probably just didn't it probably wasn't paying attention, probably wasn't on Twitter, wasn't on YouTube, whatever. Last generation, I think was when online gaming truly became mainstream, right? And that was really because of you look at games like COD 4, Halo 3, the Gear series, what else? What else? I know was there any other multiplayer games? Well, I mean, it seemed like there was so many first person shooters out there, and there were so many there were a lot of games that were focused on multiplayer. This generation, I think, is still the case, but I don't think they've had the same amount of impact. Obviously you have Fortnite, you have Rainbow Six, but those are different type. Overwatch. But those are different types of multiplayer games than we were talking about last generation. It seemed like this generation is really more about kind of like team focused multiplayer, and kind of like in I mean, I guess you could call it more I mean, I don't know if I want to call it kid friendly, but I mean, you look at Fortnite, Overwatch, they're not offensive looking games, you know what I mean? They're not offensive. Like, I feel like last generation, multiplayer gaming was more um focused towards adults. At least the games that were popular were more adult focused, even though kids played them too. But yeah. So I mean, but this generation, I feel like the multiplayer gaming. I don't want to say necessarily took a step back, but it definitely is not what it was last generation. Last generation was very, I think, really multiplayer focused. And with all the stuff that I mentioned last generation, the one thing that you can safely say is that when it came to multiplayer, Microsoft had the big advantage. You know what I mean? They had Halo. Obviously, Halo was a juggernaut back then. Gears was a new IP that had an important multiplayer in it. And a lot of people associated COD 4 with Microsoft, because Microsoft had the marketing deal at the time. And like in that Xbox One control, the Xbox 360 controller was synonymous with Call of Duty. That was pretty evident when you look at it. And when you look at Sony's offerings when it comes to multiplayer gaming, it was, I mean, I wouldn't say it was necessarily bad, but it wasn't. I don't think it was anything spectacular. Like, the only, really the first games that I can remember that had a pretty noticeable. a noticeable I probably say had a noticeable online was did I did Resistance have online? Let me hold on, let me check real quick. I want to be accurate when I say this. Um, I mean, I know Resistance, was really one of the few standout games for Sony in the beginning of their generation. Um, but I don't know if it had. I don't know if it had a multiplayer. I'm just looking it up real quick. Let me see. Yeah, they had multiplayer. Okay. Yeah, it had multiplayer. But obviously it wasn't to the level of the games that were on Microsoft and stuff like that. You had I know Killzone had like Killzone 2 and 3, the multiplayer. At least I played Killzone 3 multiplayer. And I had fun with that. Like it wasn't to the level of COD, but I still had fun with that. Uncharted 2 introduced multiplayer. Um what other game had multiplayer? I know they had, the Little Big Planet karting. I played that. That wasn't very good. Mon Nation Racers. Sony. I think Sony. I think the one thing you can notice this generation from last generation that Sony tried a lot harder collectively with all their devs. Tried harder to implement multiplayer in their games last generation than they did this generation. God of War Ascension had multiplayer. Um, let's see what other games had multiplayer. I'm thinking about the ones that I played. Um, but like overall, when you look at multiplayer, so like I said earlier, Sony didn't have the same type level of multiplayer games that Microsoft had, and even though they tried, they had Mag, which wasn't a success. They brought back SOCOM, that didn't do well. This generation, I think a lot of people I think are underselling the focus of multiplayer games and Sony games. I think some people are kind of underselling it, but if truth be told, they don't have the same level of multiplayer games that Microsoft has. Now, the big difference between this generation and last generation when it comes to Microsoft is that their multiplayer games, outside of Forza, Gears, and Halo, haven't done well. They haven't done well. I mean, people can say what they want about Sea of Thieves and how many player people are playing that game. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the game's no good. I don't think the game is very good, and I don't know how. I don't know how many people are playing it, but it's not. But we're gonna sit there and pretend that it's on the same level of success as Halo and Gears or Forza for that matter. I don't think so. State of Decay, same thing with State of Decay. Um, but with Microsoft, the one thing that's pretty obvious outside of probably um outside of Quantum Break, every one of their main Xbox exclusives has had multiplayer. Even Sunset Overdrive had multiplayer. I never used it, but it has it. With Sony, it's not the same thing. With Sony, like I'm gonna look through some of my games right now. 'Cause I have the PlayStation on right now. Um, I'm looking at some of the games that I have, at least the exclusive games that I have, and I'm looking at it, and obviously everybody golf is a fun multiplayer, not a big multiplayer game, but it's fun. But you look at games like Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't have multiplayer, the new God of War doesn't have multiplayer, and I think that's kind of one of the main differences. Spider Man doesn't have it, and some people, I think I saw BG talk about this. Some people feel like that Sony should put more emphasis on multiplayer. Not to say that they can't stop making single player, not to say that, and I'm in the same boat too. What I'm saying is that I think that if they can put multiplayer in some of these games, they should, if they're able to. Like the new game that's gonna be coming out in a couple months, Days Gone, right? A lot of new stuff came out about that game. It's not my personal cup of tea, but like I said, a lot of people are gonna play it. A lot. I think the game is gonna do. I think the game's gonna do fine commercially. Critically, I'm not too sure. I think my Metacritic prediction is probably like 75. But to me, a game like Days Gone is a perfect example of a game that I feel could have used multiplayer. I don't know how you would implement it. I don't know if it's co-op or competitive, whatever. I think that it really could have used a multiplayer mode. Same thing with the Order 1886. I know BG brought this up too. That game should have had multiplayer. You know what I mean? In my opinion. And like to me, I think there's nothing wrong with wanting a company to try different things when it comes to anything. You know what I mean? If they want to try something new, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. If me personally, and the thing is that I've seen some of my PlayStation guys who are telling BG, oh well, like oh multiplat have that cover when it comes to multiplayer games. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean to me that I don't like that excuse. And mainly because for one, I don't think I think this generation has been a disappointment when it comes to third party games. Now let me explain. I feel like this generation, I feel like there's been a lack of compelling third party new IPs, right? And I'm not talking about Overwatch. I'm not talking about Fortnite. I'm not talking about those type of games. Because in my opinion, those games are not compelling. Those are games that got popular because a couple of streamers download play it, and a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon. I don't look at Fortnite in the same level as a BioShock or a or even a Gears of War. I don't look at games like that as in the same ballpark. I don't look at it as the same ballpark as COD or anything like that. I just think it's a game that caught the imagination of a bunch of casuals and became popular. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I look at I look at games like COD, and I feel like by and large, I feel like the series has gone downward. Now the sales it still sells very well. It still does the thing. Not denying that, but I don't feel like the same. It definitely doesn't have the same impact as before. I feel like Battlefield with Battlefield 5, um, I think has disappointed people. I mean, I don't, like I said, I haven't played it yet. I'm sure the game is good, but it doesn't. Battlefield doesn't have the same impact as it used to. I you look at Halo and you look at Gears, and that's the funny part is that I actually used to not like those type of games, but now I do. But even I can admit that those games don't have the same type of impact as before. You know what I mean? I feel like, but I want to concentrate mainly on third party games. I feel like the third party offerings when it comes to multiplayer have not. I don't think have done enough to really, capture the mainstream. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people play Destiny. I get that, Destiny 2 or whatever, but I don't know. I don't feel like it had the same type of impact as it would have had last generation. You look at what are the other games like that? I mean even Rainbow Six, which is doing well, that had a slow start. Um, we haven't had a Borderlands this generation, a new Borderlands game this generation. I just to me, I just feel like third party multiplayer games just don't have the same impact as they used to, outside of the few that I mentioned. And to me, I think that's part of it. I think, and also like no, actually let me backtrack. When people say, "Oh well, multiplayer got that," I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Now, granted, obviously, multiplats they make up the vast majority of people's library. I get that, but me personally, if a first party company can make multiplayer games, if Sony can make it, why not let them make it? I don't get this idea where oh well they don't need to focus on multiplayer. They can just do single player. I mean multiplayer. They can do single player. And to me, like I don't like that attitude because to me you're literally excusing them from not making games better. And at the very end, if you can make games better by adding multiplayer, you should. You absolutely should. So like, and then, you have that, and then you have people saying, and I think I saw Porter Rock say this, that well, the game probably not going to sell if it had multiplayer, so why put it in? To me, I think. The other thing that people need to realize when it comes to multiplayer and single player and all the other stuff, and what Sony was dealing with last generation, was you have to remember last generation, even though the sales numbers became even, at least are right now pretty even right now, Microsoft had the mind share last generation when it comes to games and game sales, right? The one thing that I've noticed from this generation and last generation is that the company that has the mind share of the people. What I mean by that is when most people buy games for that platform, when the sales numbers are higher, individual game sales numbers are generally higher for one console over the other. They're going to buy more games. That's just how it is. That's just natural. You know what I mean? Look at last generation. Most gamers bought their games on the Xbox for whatever reason. Maybe they're more comfortable, and stuff like that. And it reflects on when it comes to journalist reviews and stuff like that. Most games that were reviewed, if they were multiplayer, were reviewed on the Xbox. Why? Because most people had them, most people used them, and for whatever reason it is what it is. This generation, most people play games on their PlayStation, right? Regardless of whether or not Xbox has the Xbox One X, despite all the power, most people play games and most people review games on their PlayStation. Why? Because it's the popular console out. More people have them. It is what it is, right? And I think when you have that mindset, when you have more people buying games for that platform, and people marvel about all the games that sold, all the PlayStation exclusives that do well. All right, well, if they're doing well, why not put some more multiplayer games out there? Just because Resistance multiplayer didn't succeed last generation, because God of War Ascension didn't do the numbers it should have done last generation, doesn't mean that the same thing's gonna happen this generation. It doesn't mean that at all. You know what I mean? You can have let's say if they make a Return to SOCOM, whatever, there's a higher chance that it's going to succeed now than it would have, let's say, 10 years ago, because there's more people playing on PlayStations now, and there's more available, for sales. There's more of an opportunity to succeed because there's more PlayStation out in the wild. So this notion that, oh well, they can't just make games because they can't just make multiplayer because it's not going to succeed, to me it's just more excuse making. I'm not saying that Sony should only make multiplayer games, or that they should just shoehorn multiplayer games in there. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that if they can do it, they should be able to do it. Let them do it. If they want, let's say the next Horizon game has multiplayer in it, as long as I have a single player version of it, then I'm cool with that. If they want to if they want to put multiplayer in Horizon, I'm down for it, because at the end of the day, I trust Guerrilla Games to make a good multiplayer game, especially with Horizon. If I can trust them to make an game, open world, action game involving robot dinosaurs, I should be able to trust them to make a multiplayer game in the same universe. That's all I'm saying. So, like, for me, so just to summarize, because I don't really have much else to say on this topic. Should Sony be more focused on multiplayer games? The answer, in my opinion, is yes. Now, there are some multiplayer games that they have out now that are very good. You have Gran Turismo, which is you can play. You play online in that. You have Street Fighter Five. You have everybody golf. You have Uncharted 4. The Last of Us is gonna have multiplayer as well. So there are definitely some multiplayer games out there for you to play. Don't let any Xbox fanboy tell you otherwise. But at the same time, if there could be like a new game that Sony makes that's multiplayer focused, I think it has a much better chance of being successful now than it would, 10 years ago on the PS3. Because at the end of the day, they have more of an audience now, and they have the mind share of the audience. Like they have the audience to make this game, and especially if there's a quality studio behind it, it should be successful. It absolutely should be successful. So, in my opinion, should they be more focused? Yes. Doesn't mean I don't want them to shoot. I like I said, I don't want them to shoehorn multiplayer in every game. Not every game needs to be not every game needs to be doesn't need to have multiplayer. But if you have a good amount to have multiplayer, like having the best of both worlds is definitely not a bad thing. And I think some people, especially some PlayStation guys, seem to forget that. Just because you specialize in one area doesn't mean that you can't specialize in any other areas. That's not, to me, that's not a good mindset to have. But anyway, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever. This will be 186. I'm out. Peace.